Welcome children, this is class 6 ICT class and we are going to see the chapter computer languages today. We are into session 4, 4th generation computer languages. So let's get into the session. Okay, this is the latest generation computers that we are talking about. The laptops that we use, the telephones that we use, the smartphones that we use right now, all come under 4th generation computers. Okay, they should be and they are the more fine-tuned ones of 3rd generation languages, and the first major difference among the 3rd generation and the 4th generation language is that they are more compact in size. You can take a laptop anywhere you want to go. You can take your tablet, your iPad, your smartphones, anywhere you want to go. But could you do that to a 3rd generation computer or a 2nd generation computer? No, not at all. It wasn't possible. So these computers are really a boon wherein it allows us to take computers from one place to another, which makes our work more easier. Okay, what's special about these computers? We would have heard terms called OS, RAM, ROM, internal hard disk. Have we heard about all this? Have we heard about all these names? Yes, we get reminded of all these names. We can relate them to the laptop purchase shop, correct? So when you purchase a laptop, we always think about all these points. What is the OS that it's got? Has it got a current version of operating system? What is an operating system, children? We remember we saw about something called assembler, compiler. Yes, same way operating system is an interface, a translator between a human being and the system. An operating system is nothing but an interface. What do you call it as? Interface. An operating system is called as an interface that will help us in translating whatever a human need to the computer. Okay, you can ask me, why didn't we use all this in the 1st and 3rd generation? There we used a compiler. Why not use a compiler here? A compiler here will be used only for languages. But an entire computer system, think about your touch screen phones. Do they need a button click? No. All they need is just a touch. Have you seen about the gesture making phones where you just do a gesture like this, swipe and your photos changes? Yes, in the gallery. So all these do not need a connection between the computer and you. All it needs is translation of your gesture to the computer. So that's why these are called as an interface when you talk about an operating system. So all your smartphones have an interface right now. So you can use patterns, you can use swipes, you need to move up, move down. All this can be done using just hand gestures. So to make these hand gestures understood by the computer, we start using operating systems. Okay, so operating systems are nothing but interfaces that helps us in communicating to the computer. Is that clear? Okay, so we saw something called RAM and ROM. Yes, everybody knows that M stands for memory. What does this M stand in both of them for? Memory. Okay, so what is RARO? RA is random access memory. What do you call it as? Random access memory. So this is nothing but the space that is available inside your system for your computer applications to run. That's all. Imagine you're going to play music in your computer. So you use Windows Media Player. And then imagine you want to type in a document as well. You use a Microsoft Word, correct? So both are in the same time. At the same time you start using them. So imagine there is a space inside a computer. Okay, you have this space for running applications. Now what are all running? Music player is running and your document is running. Am I right? Yes, both of these applications will be put inside that space. And then when it works, when it is inside the space, both will work simultaneously. You understand? That's why we are more considered about the RAM space when we buy a computer. So when the space is smaller, all you can use is only 2 applications. Imagine if the space is larger, you can do multiple applications on that. You understand? So that's called as the random access memory. So next one is called as read only memory. That means all you can do with this memory is you can read them. You cannot alter them like RAM. Okay. So whatever is there inside that memory, all you can do is only read that content from that. So what do you think will be there in ROM? It will have the operating system. Can you edit the operating system by switching on the computer? No. The operating system is already present inside the computer and all you can do is read them to start when you start the computer. Is that clear? Yes. Next we talk about hard disk. This is another type of storage device. The storage device which is present inside the computer. So all we know about computers from the starting is we would need computers to store things or data for us. Am I right? It might be music, it might be a file, it might be a document or anything like that. We would need computers to store things for us. So this storage device used in a fourth generation language or 4th generation computers are called as hard disks. So they have varied amount of size. Right now we have 1 TB, 3 TB hard disks and all that as well. Okay. So it has got a large amount of space compared to 3rd generation and a 2nd generation computer. Is that clear? Alright. So let's go to the 4th generation computers. When was this launched? It was launched in 1971. Okay, the flat desktops, the desktops that have very flat screens with separate keyboard and mouse. Yes, those are 4th generation languages, which then evolved to a laptop and then evolved to a tablet, and now we have smartphones. Alright, so these were launched in 1971 and till now we are using these kind of systems. Okay. Alright, so what is this? This makes the computer work. They are called as microprocessors. You remember vacuum tubes? Yes, from the 1st generation language. Alright, so the 1st generation language vacuum tubes and the transistors together formed, remember they formed integrated circuits. This microprocessor is a combination of integrated circuits. Is that clear? So these are combinations of integrated circuits. So these microprocessors make the computers work. Is that clear? So it's easier for the computer to take up complex actions. For example, you are trying to edit a video. The video file will be very huge. Yes or no? It might be around 200 MB if that a high definition quality. Yes? So that kind of space, that kind of speed and that kind of complexity should be handled, and that's the reason we have something called microprocessors built within the systems for the systems to work. Alright, and this everybody is familiar about the CDs and DVDs and pen drives. These are external storage devices. Apart from the hard disk that is already present inside the computer, we are talking about external storage devices also. They are all from outside that will help us in storing things. For example, I have already worked on some file into my computer. All I need to do is just put it in a CD or a pen drive and take it wherever I want to go. The file is going to come along with me. Yes? So that's how these external storage devices help us in working. Is that clear? Okay. So the pen drives, CDs and DVDs, and right now we have various other storage options. We have clouds, yes, online services where all you need to do is just put your files in online and retrieve wherever you want, whenever you want. Yes, all you need is just internet connection for that. Alright. So now the next screen. Yes, 4th generation language. This is a high level language compared to the 3rd generation language, higher than the 3rd generation language as well. So one step above the 2G and 3GL. Okay, is that clear? So a 4th generation language is a high level language where when you talk about this 4th generation language, there is always a confusion, why not a 3rd generation language and a 4th generation language be same? That's because a third generation language has only one translator. Remember the compiler that we were talking about? Yes, the third generation language, for example, were Fortran, Basic and all that. Here when you talk about a fourth generation language, we would talk about Java, okay, a very high-end language that we are talking about. We're talking about Python. All these are high-level languages, a very highest level form of languages. Is that clear? So these kind of languages are the ones that is easier in making the fourth generation language computers understand. A third generation language like C, C++, Fortran can also be handled by the fourth generation computers. As I already told you, the 3GL, the third generation language, is not, it is not going to be generation specific. It's not going to be only for the third generation computers. It is also going to be for the fourth generation computers. So it can be used in both of the computers and it needs only one translator. What is the translator called as? A compiler. Let's see what is this fourth generation language has. It has advanced high level languages used. Advanced are nothing but one step ahead in those languages itself. For example, I told you Python. Python is an advanced version of Java language. Similarly, when you have advanced versions of languages, they become a fourth generation language. Is that clear? Alright, so the next one, we are going to talk about what are the features of these fourth generation language. First thing, high computation speed. What is computation? Computation is nothing but processing. When I give you a sum to do, you sit and do. For example, I tell you, do what is 5 plus 5. You write it on the note and you say me it is going to be 10. The time that is taken by the person to do this 5 plus 5 is called as the computation time or the processing time. Is that clear? Yes. So now we are going to see about the second feature. This is also understood by humans. It's very easier. It is also using English words and phrases and a very high level. So as the level goes higher and higher, what happens? It's easier for the human beings to understand. So this generation language is also understood by humans. Okay. Highest accuracy. Yes. This is one thing that's very much different from any other languages. When you code or when you use this kind of programming languages, we would have the highest accuracy. Accuracy means what? Correctness. The answer that you get back is going to be 100% perfect. Okay? That's what accuracy means. Perfection. Alright? And then this needs an interpreter and a compiler. We have seen something called compiler in third generation language. We saw it worked as a translator to convert the third generation language to a machine language, correct? So now we are going to see what is this interpreter. Okay, this is the same compiler what we had for third generation language. It converted high level languages to the machine language. It also converts fourth generation language, that is the highest level of language, to a machine language, and then we come to the interpreter. What does this interpreter do? This also helps me in converting a fourth generation language to a machine level language. Why is that we use two different translators? Why wasn't one enough for us to do? You remember I told you we can also use a third generation language into a fourth generation computers. Yes. Whenever we use a third generation language into the fourth generation computers, that time compiler starts doing its work. It starts converting the 3GL to the machine language. When I am using a fourth generation language, interpreter comes into place. So interpreter starts working at that time. Alright, so what is the difference between these both when they can work on the same generation system? For example, I have 5 lines of code. Okay, these are my 5 lines which is going to be one single code. A compiler, what it does is, it goes through every line and then gives a result for me. Okay, it just takes completely, gives a result, just one result at the end of the execution, that is after processing. But what about an interpreter? Interpreter will do every single line. If there is something wrong with the first line, I get a result. If something is wrong with the second line, I get a result. So that's the difference between having a compiler and an interpreter. Compiler will take an entire whole program and give you just one result. But interpreter will stop its processing at the very first level where it finds an error or gives a result for the first particular sentence which has been done. Okay? So that's the difference, and that's the reason we have two different translators for a generation language. Is that clear? So what did we learn today? We saw about the fourth generation computers. We saw about what were the input devices used, different memories that were used, and what was the operating system. And we also saw about the two different types of translators with the language. And that's it for today. And in the next class, we are going to see about the working of Ubuntu. That's going to be the operating system. And thank you for watching this session.